Speaking of support systems, we do have one here at our church, and I wanted to have Liz and Jen come up. They each have one question to ask or to answer, and I wanted to hear what they had to say about their past group. So the first question is for Jen. And the question is, and I hope I haven't changed it for you.
Me too.
Tell us I know. I'm going to have people from an anxiety support group come up and stand on a stage. Let's give them a hand. No, we can. What's the importance of a support group for people struggling with something like anxiety?
Yeah, sure. I wrote a few things down because when I get anxious, I forget things. So what I've really enjoyed about the support group is that it gives me an opportunity to talk to other people who have the same experiences that I do. And when you have anxiety, sometimes you're up in your head a lot and you think you're the only one. But this is just an opportunity to know, like, oh, there's actually lots of other people like me. It's also helpful when someone shakes their head like, oh yeah, I've had that before. And I just feel less like different, I guess. And the other thing that I think is hugely important for me that I've learned especially this year is that I am made for community. And I think the isolation from this year has made that exponentially larger to me. And so it's just a place where I can go and be accepted and have more community. In our life, we have such a smaller amount of opportunity for that even, so it's just a great opportunity for community. And then I think everybody who's in the group would say that we do bear one another's burdens, and that's really helpful. I know that the people there pray for me, and that helps so much. I can like shoot a text to somebody and know that I'm being prayed for today or that day. And I think like what I was saying earlier about feeling in isolation if you have anxiety is like that's where the devil works for me. So I have to go beyond that and not be in the darkness, and I can get in my head and start to feel like, oh, this is hopeless or things like that. But that's just the evil one talking to you. So it just really encourages me to go and be around like-minded people that use a Christian aspect as well is super important to me. So.
Great, thanks. And then Liz, what do you talk about at the anxiety support group, the past group?
Well, we usually start each meeting with just kind of checking in with each other. So it's kind of, we meet every 2 weeks, so it's kind of how have the last 2 weeks been for you? What was a struggle? What might have been a victory? We try to really celebrate those victories, and while we support each other in the struggles, try not to make it just a complain fest. You know, we're not just dumping on each other. We're sharing our struggles in a way that we can encourage each other and get ideas for support and victory over those things. And then we'll go into a time of teaching. Usually Vicki leads our teaching time where we'll share certain tools that we've found that can help with anxiety. And there's all kinds of tools out there, so we try to share all kinds of different things, and you can take what works for you, and then if it doesn't, let it go.
Great. You have a piece of paper there too. You want to tell us about that?
Okay, well, Tim asked me if I could present one example of one of the tools that we have used in the group. So I chose, oh, see, now I'm shaking. Tim's going to talk about anxiety today, so I get to sit there with my heart pounding the whole sermon. I chose the 4-step solution to share with you guys. It's just like it sounds. It's 4 steps. That's a very basic way to, especially if you're first starting to confront your anxiety and say like, okay, I'm not going to live, this isn't how God wants me to live. I'm going to start regrooving my brain. That's something we talk about a lot in our group, is those neural pathways that Tim was talking about. You can think of it like water flowing into a trench. And the more the water flows in there, the deeper the trench gets. So we'll use tools like these to dig new trenches, and it takes time, but this is one of those tools, the 4-step. So step 1, you relabel your anxiety. So you start to feel anxious, like the wave goes over you, the floor drops out from under you, you think you're gonna pass out, whatever it is for you. and you stop yourself right there, because what you don't want to do is fight with the anxiety in that moment, because that just digs that groove deeper. Even if you're trying to counter it, you're still digging it deeper. So the first step is relabeling. You call it what it is. Oh, I know this feeling. I'm anxious. I've had this before. I know this. Step 2 is reframing. You take the power out of the thought by naming it. So I have copies of this paper over here, so I won't read all of this to you, but what we can do is name our specific kind of anxiety, and there's a whole list on here, and there are others too. But for me, and I think Jen too, we both catastrophize, which is where one little thing happens and you take it to the extreme of the worst it could possibly be. So I know when I start to feel anxious, step 1, I stop it. I recognize you. I'm feeling anxious right now. This is not a real thought. Step 2, I rename it. Oh, I'm catastrophizing. This isn't going to be as bad as my brain is telling me it's going to be. That is not a true thought. Take the power out of it. Step 3, you refocus. So you're not arguing with it, you're refocusing and basically distracting yourself in a positive way. And it doesn't have to be a quote unquote spiritual distraction. It doesn't have to be prayer. Sometimes when you're super anxious, you can't focus to pray. So it might be something like the man that wrote these steps, he reads, I think it's murder mystery novels, because that gets his brain off of it. You might watch a funny TV show that you like, go for a walk, put on music, whatever it takes to get your brain thinking about something else, because right now we're just trying to get away from digging that trough deeper. And do that until you start to forget that anxious thought. And then step 4 is revaluing. And I don't always go to this because it can bring back the anxious thought. So you don't have to. You can skip step 4. But basically, once you're done, the anxiety has passed, which it does. You go back and say, how did that distraction work for me? Did I label that correctly? What's a distraction I could use that might be more effective in the future? So yeah, those are the 4 steps that are over there, if that sounds interesting to you. And if our past group is something that you feel like you'd like to be a part of and you feel like it could help you, we meet on first and third Saturdays of the month here, or you can also join us by Zoom if you're more comfortable with that, also on those Saturdays after that. So we're always welcoming whoever, because we're here to help each other.
Nice job, ladies. You survived, you were clear, that was great.